this is Steps to Care. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at the documentation, but the documentation does go over a lot of this, what I'm going to go over here as well. Or in the link below in the description, if this is posted after that. So this is the initial Steps to Care interface. This is what we call the care need dashboard. You have your care dashboard with your open requests up at the top, which at the moment we don't have any active. And then you have your follow-up requests down at the bottom, specifically assigned to you. You can turn off the assigned to me filter there on the bottom as well. I'm going to go ahead and go through a simple scenario of entering a care need and seeing the assignment process that happens from there. So right on the top, there is this enter care need button, or there's the plus sign right above the grid as well, or below the grid, depending on where you are on the dashboard. I'll go ahead and hit enter care need. And so we're going to go through a scenario where Betty Rubble called the church today and let us know that her husband, Barney, was admitted to the hospital last night for chest pains. We want to make sure that the staff and church members who know Betty and Barney know about this and are able to keep up to date with any new information regarding this situation. In order to do that, we're going to create a new care need. So from there, I'll go over the fields really quick. Date entered. This can be, well, by default, it is right now. It's entered as the calendar date and time, but you can enable this for future needs as well. So say if you knew somebody that was going to have a knee surgery or some kind of surgery coming up, you can schedule it for future needs as well. The submitter, that's generally going to be the person that is actively submitting it, unless maybe it was a paper form that you know that was submitted to your front desk and somebody else like filled out the paper form, then you could change who was the person that actually interacted with the person to be able to submit the need. The campus field, this is specifically to the requester and also able to, this is able to assign needs based on campus. So that way you can have specific care workers that are assigned to specific categories and specific campuses. So that is, this campus field does affect that. By default, if you select an existing person that's already in your database, if I search for somebody that is in the database, such as Greg's, so if I were to select him, he has a specific campus set on his record and it would pre-populate that campus record. But for now, we're going to go over the specific scenario of Barney Rubble. And so Barney Rubble does not actually exist in our system yet. Most of the time, your members would exist in your system, but it can also be enabled to add a new record as well. So I'm going to go ahead and type in his information, and we're just going to use that example.com because he actually has an email address, and we're going to enter 55555 for the home phone. So email or phone number is required. It is not, it's one or the other that's required. It does have a special like requirement check at the end. Address is not required if you don't know their address, but you can enter all the information in if you have it, whether it's from a paper form or if somebody submitted the information. So I'm going to go ahead and just skip address for now. And so for category, we're going to go ahead and select a hospital/surgery because he is in the hospital for chest pains. And then it went ahead and has the description of need here. And this is where I'm going to put the information of that he called and told us Barney was admitted to the hospital late last for chest pain. So at the moment, I am showing you a newer version of this Steps to Care block and plugin that is coming out shortly. We have added this new ability to have custom follow-up. it can be enabled or disabled. That's one detail that we can go into after the fact. But by default, the follow-up is automatically after 10 days. It'll move into follow-up status and send a notification saying, hey, you need to follow up with this need. But you can check a custom follow-up button to be able to enable, like, oh, maybe I want to follow up in 2 weeks, or maybe I want to follow up in a month. Say it was like a birth or something like that, and I want to follow up a little bit later. That might be something that you can do as well. Forgot to disable another new feature that we added, and that is there is the capability of previewing assigned workers right as you are submitting this need. So essentially, it will come up and it'll preview who the worker is that's going to be assigned to this need. So I think it looks good. I'm gonna go ahead and let it be assigned to Ted Decker, but if you wanted to assign an additional worker to it, or say you had somebody specifically that was regularly visited the hospitals, you could add an additional worker here as well before you even submit it. You can also disable that setting, and it just automatically will assign them as soon as you hit the save button. So when I hit the save button, it's going to go ahead and create this care need. So there are a few things that happened in the background. When I did hit that, the assigned workers do also get a notification that a new care need was assigned to them. Those notifications are available under system communications if you want to customize them or see them, what they might look like. So from there, Ted, the connections pastor, has been assigned any care needs to the hospitalization/surgery category, which was selected. And on this screen, you can see ways that Ted can notate how he has cared for Barney. So up here in the top, this is where me as a worker, I can choose how I want to be notified, whether that's via email, SMS, or email and SMS, or you can even disable your steps to care notifications in case you don't want to be notified of them and you're just going to come actively look at the dashboard for the needs that are assigned to you. So that's how you can choose your notification type. You'll notice the category color over here is red. That is customizable, but it kind of, there's a key up at the top right that shows what the categories are. And then if you mouse over it, it also says hospital/surgery. You'll also notice that Barney, I can mouse over his name and I can get some basic contact information for him. So that way I can reach out to him and call him or text him or email him. And then I also can click on his name if I have access to the person details page to go to his person detail and see more information about him and his family. So the date entered shows here. It doesn't show the time, but it just shows when the care need was entered, as well as the details. I forgot to set a campus, so apparently the campus will just show up as empty. Can't remember if you can require that or not. I'll have to double check on that. Care touches, this is the amount of touches for this need. Care touches are calculated based on any note, whether it's one of these quick notes or just a note using the make note button that are added to the care need. And then the assigned will show who has been assigned to the care need. So at the moment, it's just Ted Decker, as you saw in preview. I turn off this assigned to me because I'm not assigned to any of the follow-up ones. It's just going to show the same thing. I was hoping as there's more people assigned to it, it will show little pictures of each individual that are assigned to it, and then you can mouse over it to see who is assigned to that specific need. And so for quick notes, these are also fully customizable, but by default, these are just these are the default ones that come in. There is called, text message sent, mail sent, or email. I think that one actually was configured wrong on this demo server. So it's actually mail sent, gift given, or visited. Whether you went to go visit them at the hospital or whatnot. So I'm gonna go ahead and say that I reached out to him since he's in the hospital. I went and visited him. So it's going to say that I went and visited him. So my current profile, I'm just on admin. But whoever you're logged in as is the one that goes and gets added as the note. And then there are actions that you can take uh, from this dashboard as well. So the make note button also shows a history of notes as well. So if you hit the make note, you can make a custom note. You can even set security. All of these options are available to disable or enable within the block settings. But so I can write a custom note here, as well as I can see all the notes or care touches that were taken on this need by clicking on that make note, as well as if you click on the whole row, it'll take you to the detail page, and at the bottom it shows the same thing of the notes. So for the actions, for some reason when it's like there's only one, it has this weird scroll bar. It's either one or all the way to the end. It's some weird CSS issue that I haven't been able to figure out. And from there, you have a few options of completing a need, launching workflow, adding prayer request, benevolence request, or connection request. So in our example scenario, Barney will be in the hospital for a while recuperating, and Betty has let the church know that she needs help with some yard work. So thankfully, the church has a church needs connection category that Barney and his family can add to this request for just this purpose. Below are the steps to begin the process. So I can add connection requests. I did not call it church needs. I should have church needs. But these are also configurable. Of adding a connection request, you can restrict care needs to only specific connection types as well. But from here, I could say, okay, I need yard work. By default, it fills out the comments. I'm not exactly sure what just happened there. I need to look at that. By default, it fills out the comment. Didn't do it again. With the details from the need, but you can feel free to add additional comments or even wipe it out completely and start off with a new one. So I'll go ahead and fill it out, just some additional notes. From there, when I hit save, it will go create the connection request, and then connection requests kind of have their own whole process that they follow of automatically assigning to somebody to look at, review, and then you can assign to people, and you can kind of go from there with connection requests. So that's an example of how you can initiate a connection request from a care need to have further follow-up. There is also the capability of, let's say a few days later, Betty called Ted about Barney's progress and mentioned that she is struggling with some anxiety about how she is going to deal with Barney's continued health needs. Ted let her know that he will add her to the prayer list, but also will be sending her some resources to help her with her anxiety in the meantime. So we have a specific workflow that can be easily sent in situations like this. So from this action menu, you can add a prayer request. So if you wanted to add it directly to the prayers, if I do that action, it will take you to the prayer request section. It automatically submits it as a pending request, and then it will go through the normal prayer approval process. You can also, if you have access to approve it, you can edit it and approve it right there. But in this specific scenario, we were talking about launching a workflow. From here, you can launch a workflow. This launches it's kind of a generic workflow launch, but with the care need attached to it. And then you can choose one of your workflow types. We have a lot of different workflow types, so I don't know if I have the specific one that we were talking about, but essentially it would be like a resource to set up a counseling appointment or some kind of communication with the individual based on this care need. So I'm trying to think if I have one. Don't think I have a specific request for this, but just do an external inquiry, and then I can launch that workflow, and then you can choose to just go back from here, or you can launch another workflow. Say you had one that was for the specific counseling team, and then one for prayer requests. You might even not go through the normal prayer request process. You might go through a workflow for that, just because you want specific people to be notified that the prayer request might not notify. So you might go through a workflow for adding prayer requests as well. So that's an example of launching a workflow. And from there, that is kind of the basic functionality of a single care need that gets assigned. And then there are some settings on the job as well as the dashboard that make sure that you have like a minimum number of care touches, and then the automatic follow-up that we can kind of go over here in the next section. But first, I'm going to show you just a real quick example of an additional functionality of including family members. So on the care need, you can also include family members. So we're going to actually say that Lauren Greggs, or is it autofilled because I was already doing this. Lauren Greggs had a new baby added to the family. So we're going to actually go with category of birth. And we're going to say that there was a new baby born this week. Yeah, just something I came up with, but what I can do at the bottom, I can actually say include family. So it'll not only create a care need for Lorraine Greggs, but it will actually, as I hit save, will assign child needs to this need as well. So that way people can also reach out to Bob or Tim or Jordan. And this is where all of your care worker setup is kind of the, you can specifically set it up to be able to have specific workers for children, like male children being assigned to a specific worker, or like a children's ministry worker or something like that. So that way they can reach out to them on a specific need. You can also edit a specific need. So this is for Tim Greggs, which is one of their younger. By default, it puts in the existing description of the need, but I'm just going to add more detail, and I'm going to say that Tim needs to be specifically reached out to see. We'll just and when I hit save, it will be updated specifically for his need, that he has specific details on his need. So there is an additional email that gets sent out daily. It can be configured whether you want it daily or not. It basically is outstanding needs that people are assigned to, and they'll get that email daily saying like, okay, these are the needs that are assigned, and so that new detail would be in that new email. Or when they come in and are specifically going to reach out to Tim, they'll see that specific need there. And this view does change depending on who's assigned to the need and what access they have to this dashboard as well. So they might actually only be assigned to that specific need. They might not see the parent need, just depending on their access to the dashboard. And they'll just see that this was related to another one with the parent need. So that is the basic functionality that we're going to go over. We can go over some questions now, and then I can kind of dig into some of the settings and the workers if you guys are interested in seeing that.
The staff members and church. So the church members can see this as well? Or is it just?
No, so this is primarily for anybody that you have that is working on a care need or care that has been assigned to view this care dashboard. So the reason that I kind of justify that is because at the church that we primarily developed this for, Rock Springs Church in Georgia, they actually have it that they want all of their staff and their care workers and their elders and their small group leaders to have access to the dashboard. So they've kind of given the dashboard their like front and center on their Rock, and they've given a lot of people access to at least the first page of Rock just to be able to see their dashboard, to be able to come in here and reach out to these people. By default, I would say it's generally staff and these care workers that you might have set up. So care workers under this options setting, this is where you set up those specific care workers that have that kind of the different parameters that you've set up to be able to be assigned to needs. So you could have specific individuals that are assigned to hospital/surgery. You could also have hospital, surgery, and birth assigned to some, as you see, like Cindy Decker is assigned to birth, grief, and other, and Ted Decker is assigned to grief and hospital/surgery. So Cindy's not going to get assigned to any that are hospital/surgery, but they might just round robin, whoever has less needs is going to get assigned when grief is chosen. As well as campus, you could have specific workers for a specific campus or broad campuses. You can also set up geofence locations. That's weird that there's two little info icons. You can set up geofence locations to be able to set up kind of like elder geofences. If you wanted to be able to do that as well, that's what the initial design was for elders to also be assigned to their needs within their geographic area. And then this is where the age range and gender that I was talking about, you could have specific workers for this, like elementary school, middle school, and teenagers assigned to different workers as well to be able to reach out to. And then it also gives you the capability to be able to assign to any group role as well. So you can also set up group roles. So by default, well, not by default. This is our settings that we've set up that if you're involved in a serving team and you have a leader, or you're involved in a small group and you have a leader, they'll also be assigned to the need. So that way they can reach out to their individual when they know that they have a need as well. So sorry, that was kind of a broad answer, but did I answer your question?
Yes. So basically, you can handpick which staff or people you want to have access and what level of access.
Right. So you can handpick that. I mean, there's a ton of permission settings also to be able to set on the care dashboard, whether you want them just to be able to see their assigned needs, or if you want them to be able to see all the needs on the dashboard. Initially, again, the church that had us develop it, their initial design was that care workers would see all the needs, so they could kind of reach out to any need that's available on the dashboard. But then like small group leaders and serving team leaders, they would only see the ones that are assigned to them, because the only ones that are their people.
Yeah.
Necessarily.
Okay, that makes sense. What if you don't have, like most of the time, if we have a person that is not in our database or in our system, then we may not have a email or phone number or address or any of that kind of information. So can you just,
The parent of the church.
So
yeah, do you
So the
have?
primary reason that we did that was for matching, that there is technically the capability to match people in your database. The only way to match people on your database is to have some piece of contact information, whether that's email or home phone or cell phone. It's up to you guys how you would necessarily handle that. That might be where you have like a church email address that you assign them to. I know I believe that's what Rock Springs did, is that they had a specific like no email at rockspringsonline.com is what they put in there. And as long as the name was different, like the only challenge with that one that I'll tell you is that you could still potentially match if it happened to be, John Smith, and there's multiple John Smiths and you don't have an email address, you could potentially match that person. So it could be the same person getting two different needs.
Mhm.
Not that big of a deal, but it can happen. Like that would be my only concern with it. But yes, you could do that with that. And that's how we accomplish that. We could look into disabling that, or like making that a setting to disable the email or phone requirement. But I do know that That's generally like minimum viable contact information in Rock is to have an email or a phone number and the first and last name. Just to have, like I said, a viable matching person that you can somehow match with. Because if you just have John Smith, you're never going to know if it's John Smith from down the street or John Smith from another state.
Yeah.
And so if a person has multiple entries on their account or, you know, their record, does it list them all out? let's
So
say
there's two.
hospital and then
Yeah,
they,
go ahead. Continue.
you know, maybe a month later they have another hospital visit. Is it like they're listed out their name and then everything that they've had?
So by default, this shows open, and then you can choose to show whether they're follow-up, snooze, close, long-term care needs. So by default, that's what this view shows, is the dashboard kind of shows what you're assigned to and or any of your filter options for here. So it's up to you guys when you complete them. It will automatically go into this follow-up status after 10 days. Again, that's a setting. You can change whether it's 10 days or you can use that new custom follow-up setting. But if you go specifically to their record, so let's go to Barney Rubble's record, yes, it will show any need that has been assigned to that individual. Under this care needs tab, it has a functionality to be able to run in what's called person details mode. That's just a simpler view of the care needs, and it shows all of their needs that are related to them. Obviously, he only has one now, but it would show open, closed, any of them here, whether they've had needs.
Is asking if you can add a care need from their profile page. Like if you go to their profile page, can you click and add it from there?
So you can click add from this option right here. Only one thing that I've had a little bit of a weird scenario is that after you click save, well, let's just go ahead and try it. After you click save, it might go back to the dashboard instead of going back to their person details page, but it should go back to the page that launched it. I'm going to just try it. So it pre-filled their information, which was nice. So it pre-filled all the information from Barney Rubble that it's attached to that individual. It did assign to the same worker again, but I think that was because I chose hospital surgery. If I chose grief, the preview should, it's still assigned to him because I think Cindy had too many because I assigned the family need and it gave her 6
had to get them
needs
all.
instead. Yeah. So Ted's gonna get all of them right now. So this is what the view would look like for if there are 2 needs for the same person. It's just gonna show them here. And yeah, it did end up doing what I thought it was gonna do. So it went back to the dashboard page. So that's the only thing that might be a little weird. If you're going from the person detail page, you might expect it to go back to the person detail. If that's an issue, we can look into it in the future. But it did at least pre-fill it with the person's information if that's what you were looking for. Like you can add it from that person's page. Actually assigned to a need, that's where I feel like the notifications are something that you'd probably want to customize a little bit further. So under communications, under system of communication, there's several different notifications that we have. But the one specifically would probably be like care need assigned. This is the one that I might even want to customize further to if you do have, so of course it doesn't really give me a good preview. I was hoping that it would give me at least a little bit something. But this is the one that you'd probably want to customize a little bit more to have like the person's picture if they have a picture and like maybe the person's contact information within here. Again, if you guys have had a chance to look at Rock that much yet, is that Rock has what's called lava, and from lava you can do a lot of things. So even though this just shows care need, date, name, category, details, really all the properties of the individual that was attached to this care need are available in this email. So you can actually customize it to be able to have the person's picture. You can have it have more of their contact information. You can even go get further information about the person if you want when this notification gets sent out, including notes. And I mean, you could do all kinds of things in this email. again, you want to try to limit yourself that this email doesn't take, 2 minutes to generate or something like that, because you will notice it once you assign a need. But you can customize these notifications to be able to do what you want them to do as well. And that's where I would suggest it. Sorry if my computer just slowed down for a second. That's where I would suggest doing a lot of those things is within the notifications, because that's where you also could have the outstanding care needs that basically lists all the needs that you're assigned to. And that might be a good way that you could have, I've been assigned to this person, this person, this person, this person. But like if it's a hospital category, if it's a hospital/surgery category, I'm going to display even more information, because you can also attach maybe specific attributes to that specific category as well, of like what hospital and what room number once you get that information. So more people could go visit them as well. Like there's definitely a lot of customizing, but out of the box, it doesn't necessarily.
Okay. Now, when you do a care entry, does it, right now, ours you'll select the person, it shows a picture, then you have to go in and select their spouse, or, if it's their child or grandchild, and then it shows a picture of that, who they're related to on the form.
So yeah, right now, again, that this is just limited to the one individual requester. You would have to, like, if, let's say in the example of Barney Rubble, because I entered him new, once I click on his record, that's where I would have to like kind of edit his family and add any additional spouse or anything like that. At the moment, Steps to Care was not built to handle spouses or children or any additional family members, minus if you have an existing family and you choose that include family, then it could like create the need for all of the family members, but that's the only thing.
On the gifts, I think it was,
Yeah.
is there a way to distinguish between gifts like flowers were sent or a food basket, fruit basket, that sort of thing?
You're talking about giving in general?
The entry, so like for Barney Rubble, if we're gonna put the gifts tab, is there a way to differentiate so that you know what gift was sent? Like what
So in
flowers?
these, oh, not that button, sorry. In the options, those are customizable by you guys to be able to add or delete any kind of quick note that you put there. Again, these were meant to be just a quick option to be able to just say like, hey, I called this individual, or I sent a text message to this individual. If you need more detail than that, they were not really built for that. You could create multiple, like if you have specific gifts that are given, that you might have like a fruit basket or money or something like that, like or gift card, maybe not money, but a gift card or something like that. Like you could have different notes for that. And then that's where to say, well, there is also this make note button that you could write whatever, even though that's more of a training thing more than anything. You could write whatever kind of note that.
Yeah, just because it's
eh,
helpful, because like one person will send them flowers, but then another person will do another step and send the family a meal. And so it's kind of making sure that's all noted.
right. So we do have another church that we're working with right now on adding some of those additional features that I talked about that were additional features. They are also looking into linking this with a different part of Rock. So linking it with the benevolence and the connection requests within Rock a little bit more deeply. Specifically that they would actually have like a benevolence worker that gets assigned to a need, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be the one that takes care of it. They then create the connection request, and then that connection request is where you might have way more specific detail of, okay, this person is going to be assigned and they're going to be doing a meal for this care need. This person is going to be providing flowers. This person is going to be going and cleaning the house. This person, like, they're going to set up those as a different need. We still haven't gotten completely through the detail of how that's going to work yet, but it's going to be a combination of workflows and the benevolence section within Rock. So there is a whole nother section within Rock called benevolence that actually tracks specific like amount of money and amount of gifts and things like that that can be used to information.
And would all that information be under that person's record then? So like,
It should be. It's been a while since I've used benevolence. Yes, so there is the benevolence tab, and so that will have the specific benevolence requests as well on there. So that is something to look at, is seeing, well, okay, what does benevolence do specifically compared to what Steps to Care does specifically? They were built similarly, but they do different things.
okay.
So that's where sometimes we have to kind of link them and choose whether we're going to use this section or this section, depending on what the purpose is. Because there's even connections that's mainly been built to be able to like, hey, get people involved. Like, hey, we're going to people involved in greeting. So Wendy signed up to be a greeter, and she hasn't been contacted yet. But once I contact her, I'm going to move her to in progress. But this can also be used to keep track of like different steps that are taken to follow up with a individual, depending on what you're trying to do with it, such as like the yard work example scenario, is that you might keep track of people that do specifically get assigned to yard work needs, not necessarily that they need to be assigned to the care need itself, but just once that care need does spawn a yard work connection request, then they can be assigned specifically to, okay, I'm going to go do yard work at this person's home. So they kind of all work together in different tools. It doesn't necessarily mean that all has to be done in Steps to Care.
In the Steps to Care, does it have a list where you can put in like the hospitals that you generally go to? And it'll put it on the form? So you know that Barney Rubble is in St. Luke's Hospital, or and then the hospital name and information, will that be on his form?
Right. So what you can do is care needs can, again, one of the expandability things of Rock is that any entity within Rock can have attributes attached to them. And those attributes can also be dependent on other information filled out in that field. A little bit confusing to set up, but essentially what I can do is I can say, okay, care need has an attribute of, we're going to say hospital, and you could either just be a plain text field, or you could even create a, well, I'm going to just do a single select list because I don't know that many, but I'm going to go ahead and just put mine. I'm in New Mexico, so I'm going to put UNMH and
cool. How about New Mexico?
Yeah.
so I'm just going to put those two. Oh, actually, so like there's multiple hospitals, and so this qualifier field at the top and the qualifier value, those are the ones that can kind of get confusing to be able to set up. But this is what you can actually say. I believe it's category ID, and then I'd have to go look up category ID. Category ID, I'm just going to put 1, 2, 3, and then I'll come back here once I get the category. That it will only show this hospital field if the category selected is hospital slash surgery. That way, just the hospital field doesn't show up for all care needs, but it only shows up when you select that hospital slash surgery. So I'm going to go ahead and just do that. And then you could even add an additional one of like room number or something. So that is specifically what we did for Rock Springs, that they did want that information. And then we built more specific reports on their dashboard. And that's where, if I can pause or stop the recording, I'll show you theirs. Just so you can kind of see, again, it's personal information. So you'll just have to say that you're not going to share it with anybody. But I can show you just the example of, they've built separate reports for like funerals and hospital visits, essentially, that if it has a hospital assigned to it, or it has a funeral home field assigned to it, those ones list specifically under the dashboard. And that's all just done with lava. So let me just show you this example really quick, and then I'll go show you that. So I'm just there. I need to find what category that actually is. So this is a defined value, so technically the IDs are different on every different organization. Attributes 1, 2, 3. That's a category 1295. Now, if I go back to steps care, I guess I could just say back. If I go specifically on Barney Rebels, because he already has a hospital surgery, it didn't show up. Maybe I did wrong. Maybe it wasn't category ID. I'll have to look it up, but know that it does work because we've set it up for them on Rock Springs. I'll show it to you over there because we did set it up for them. And one of the new fixes that we're going to be releasing here shortly is that immediately when you select it, even on a new need, it will reload the page and like show that attribute actively. On Rock Springs at the moment, you had to save it and then come back in, and then the hospital field would show up. It's just kind of a weird bug that we were having. So, but you can add additional attributes to it as well.
So then if we wanted to do a report with all of we have a weekly meeting that we talk over all of the people who are currently either in the hospital doing a funeral for, and we make a list of those, just the people, the event, and the date that they were visited or contacted. Would we have to do that in the lava then?
So lava would probably be the easier way to do it, but you can also use the built-in data view and reporting capability within Rock. Care needs, as far as I know, care needs are supported in the data views. It's been a while since I set that up. I'm just gonna go try to set one up really quick. Where you set up a data view, applies to care needs. I just try to look and see what filters I have available, but I'm pretty sure, yeah, you could just set up a data view for that specific. You were saying a specific category or just like all the specific needs with that?
So it would be all the things that have happened within that month or whatever,
Right.
So here.
So care needs are supported. I'm not sure if it goes all the way down to the note level, unfortunately. That's the one that I would to look a little bit further into. But you can say like all that the date entered was between, you can say either a range, so like the current, or I guess probably just do like previous 30 days. Or you could do like the current month or whatever. So you can create a data view and then you can create a report. Again, this is the way Rock works, that you have to create a data view for your data options. So that's like where you set up all your filters. And then you set up a report that links to that data view to show you what information you want on that report. So on the report is where you choose, okay, I want the person's name, I want the care need details, I want the category, and then you can even use Lava in that report to be able to pull, well, I want this specific information about this person on this, or the specific information about the attribute, or, I mean, there's all kinds of different things that you can do there. That's just the way that reporting works within Rock. But you can add filters. So for care need fields, I don't know why it thinks I have a payment card. So for care need fields, it just keeps clicking away. You can filter based on category, create a date time, custom follow-up field that just add a date enter, details, follow-up date. Most of the information about the care need itself. Unfortunately, I don't see attributes. Interesting. So I don't know if you could specifically say like all of the care needs at this specific hospital, at least with the data view functionality. That's where you might have to use Lava in order to do that. I'm gonna look at that because it should support attributes as well, but I'm not seeing that. So I'll look and see if there's something there. But yeah, that's the way that I would do it, is using a data view to be able to show that information.
Does it keep track of how many funerals have been done, how many hospitals have been how many hospital visits?
Um, Again, the way that I would do that would be lava, but it does not like in its default functionality do that. There have been reports that are generated to do that. That's where like I would want to be able to filter on attributes to do that instead of just on category, but you could do it just with a category. I should have saved that. You could say all care needs. So all care needs that are hospital / surgery, I would add an additional one for like funeral. Unless you want to use grief for that. I don't know. Again, that's going to be up to you guys to customize those categories to what you want. I think they used grief at Rock Springs, but they might have customized it to grief / funeral, or even have a whole new one for funeral. So let's say all the hospital / surgery within that have been closed is the way that I would view it. This is like all the hospital surgery needs that have been closed, and then you would add maybe an additional time. You can either use created date time or date entered. Date entered, again, that's dependent on if you wanted to schedule them out ahead of time or not. I generally use date entered for it, but let's just say that it was a range of the current year. So this would be all of the needs. It would help enter the name. I mean, you for care needs, care needs closed. Well, he's not going to show anything because none of them are closed at the moment. Like I would remove that closed status to see the ones that I just entered. But I know that Rock Springs set up several reports to be able to look at the different categories, and you can even do based on care touches. Like touch count is a field. So you could say like that have had, over 2 care touches or things like that as well. So if there's additional fields there, you could always email us to see if that option is something that you needed to add as well.